right. Hello there. Welcome to One on One. My name is Bridget Otu. Thank you very much for joining us. Today on One on One, it's a very simple but very intense conversation that we are going to have. And it's the most talked about audio all week. The audio of an assembly of a senior commissioner of police, a politician of the New Patriotic Party, and they had a very simple aim. They are unhappy with the work of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, and so they want him out. And the agenda is simple: get him out so that the NPP can rig the 2024 elections. Because the only thing they believe standing in their way is the IGP. We saw what happened in Asino. Despite, the accusations left, right, center, it went on peacefully. Those who tried to foment trouble were arrested.
Then NDC brought you this far. Now, what he's bragging about is the fact that he will be IGP till 2030, because the Mama has promised him if he should win, may God forbid anything, if he should win, he will maintain him as IGP. And he again.
Who was there to hear this?
Oh, it is true. Wait. A meeting was held, of which he was a party to that meeting. And where he was even...
The NDC meeting.
NDC meeting headed by your mama.
And
this thing is not coming from you. You can Google it. You see it.
And
you can go to Ghana Web. Yes, the number of
you go what?
Go to Ghana Web. Let your boys do it for you. You see it. Paul Adom Ochre. It is one of his recent episodes. This was the topic. This was the subject matter. This was what was discussed.
And that our MPP.
So he mentioned his name publicly. Paul Adom Ochre. What about this?
Possible vice presidential candidates. Bruce Kufuor, Bruce Dampare.
What would be his vice?
Yes, if he should win. But all this thing Dampare is doing.
But are you saying that President Nanado doesn't hear this?
Who will tell you?
Me, I've heard it. I will say it, but I just don't want to say later. It will be found to be not true.
Mention Paul Adom Ochre. Call Paul Adom Ochre.
Good for that much.
Oh, he's very close to the president. Then he's a journalist. He's a journalist. He's an astute.
So my conversation here is with a security expert on this. What has happened? The comments by the Interior Minister, who literally rubbished, made it look as though it is nothing, that we're not sacking him and that's it, end of story.
This government is not going to temper with 2024 election. Number one, our president does not want to stay one more hour beyond his tenure. No. Number two, we are making sure that we have free and fair election. You have been in this country and you've had several by-elections. The by-elections under this system are the most peaceful by-elections that we've had. I had to go to Chiriponi, where people were shot in the head. And we said, went to Atiwa, Talensi, where they were throwing stones. But now you go to a by-election, and everybody relaxed. People are allowed to go about voting peacefully. And I am saying that those who did not believe in the system now believe that they can count on the police in 2024. Haven't they said that? Yeah. They have said that, and rightly so. And so, as far as I'm concerned, we modern, and I'm also happy that at last they have said that the EC did a good job, because I can assure you that this country would not allow anybody to be killed or shot because of vote at all. One thing is certain: 2024 would not be a violent election by anybody, and no one will want to thwart the will of the people.
And there are experts who are even asking for a forensic audit of the tape in question. We'll look at the commentary that has happened, and my guest is a man who talks security, also very good with counterterrorism, and he's the executive director of the African Center for Counterterrorism. EMMANUEL Kotin, thank you very much for joining us on One on One.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us. I just want to get quick thoughts on what has happened. The tape. Have you had the opportunity to listen to it? If you have, what did you make of how long they spoke, the content of what they were discussing, and then we can talk about the implications. So content, your initial reaction to the tape, and the content of the depth of what they were discussing.
Well, thanks for having me. In fact, I've listened to the audio. It's about 59 minutes.
Yes.
And it's so explosive. And it is unfortunate that after Ghana going through the processes of our democracy, after 31 years, somebody can actually think that they have the power and influence to so discussed as to the removal of no mean a person than the number one gentleman of the police service. And you know the police, they're in charge of Homeland Security.
Right. Yeah.
And if the top
Homeland
is not
Security,
well...
you're taking us to America.
Well, when I talk of Homeland Security, internal security.
Right, I get you.
Yes.
Okay.
And if the top is not right, you can imagine what happened in the bottom. So the rest of us basically would not be sitting right. To me, it was a very unfortunate audio.
Right.
And I have no doubt in my mind, after listening to it, that it is an authentic
I was coming to that.
Yes.
How do you judge the authenticity of it? Because people like myself, I mean, the doubting Thomases, at the very start of it, I thought, like, why would anybody, leak that? Because I had not heard anywhere where a conversation had gone on and there was an allegation that the IGP was NDC. I mean, if anything, it should be quite the opposite of that. So how do you judge the authenticity of the audio?
You see, if you use an artificial intelligence to generate an audio of this nature, you will not have a third-party voice coming in.
Right.
Mostly artificial intelligence deals with what we call the monologue kind of thing. If you listen to the audio critically, it was, even on 2-3 occasions, one of the discussants had a call.
Right.
Even at a point, he confirmed it was the president calling him.
That must somebody really high up in
And
NPP.
the two personalities involved, I know them personally. I personally interacted with them. Some of us, we say it as it is. When it's white, it's white.
Yeah.
When it's black, it's black. So I think that the debate over the authenticity of this audio is dead,
arrival.
as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I think that to satisfy the good people of this country, that's why we have institutions. And Parliament is better placed now, since we don't have better constitutionally mandated body that will check the essence of the police as an institution.
Okay.
Over the years, some of us are advocated for the formation of an independent police commission to check the excesses of the police as an institution, but it has always fallen on deaf ears. And here we find ourselves, Bridget, that a senior police officer, a commissioner, is in discussion with a political operative who happened to be former Northern Regional Chairman of the ruling party.
Right.
So one would have asked, can the police investigate itself? No. That's why we are running to Parliament. And you know what happened in our Parliament? The political banter because of the whip system.
And that would bring the seriousness of it down.
So if Parliament investigates this matter, the worst thing that can happen is for Parliament to recommend for an act or the change of the system of the appointment of the IGP. The criminal aspect may be muted.
Okay.
They can recommend. It is left with who to do the prosecution. It comes with the police.
Okay,
service.
so I want to stay on that. So now I'm interested in, will there be aspects of it, given what we know, how much the entire Ghanaian population is so obsessed with this audio? Will there be part of it if there's a committee set up where they would say, okay, because of national security, we cannot release this? Will that be fair to the public then?
Well, Parliament is so powerful, they make their own rules.
Right.
And just like I indicated, national security supersedes any other considerations. So if in the minds of the committee, they feel that releasing the true findings of the audio will put the country at risk, they may weigh that option. But it is entirely up to Parliament as an institution to do that.
But as a security expert, will it be fair to put that out? Whatever it is, I mean, we already know what's on the audio because it's already been leaked. Would it be fair to release it? I mean, the persons involved. I have seen a picture of one, I believe, COP Alex Mensah. I understand he's been identified as one of the persons who spoke on that leaked audio. And then the former, I believe, national is not chair of
NP,
are also on there.
Yes.
So if we know all this, what is the secret again?
So you see, I always try to a difficulty in fine-tune African democracies as to what they define as national security, and because of that national security aspiration, you can't do A or B or C.
Right.
But if you look at the advanced democracies, it's not like that. Look at the United States of America. The former president,
Everything
Donald Trump,
declassified.
has been indicted.
Right.
And when he was indicted, his fingerprints were what? Taken. That shows that is a progressive society where no one is above the law. Because of the shrewd nature advocated for the change of the 1992 Constitution, it has politicians are hiding under. If it was a progressive society, by now, a committee. In worst case scenario, they will telecast their investigations, because that's the beauty of democracy. Power be you and I, not the person we have elected. The person is only exercising that authority on behalf of me and you. But it looks as if in our part of the world, when we elect somebody, the person becomes a tin god. You have to worship the person, or you have to go by the whims and caprices of the person, or you are out.
Right. I don't remember who said that, but somebody talked about how poor people will queue and elect a member of parliament who will be given a Land Cruiser, and then he will drive and splash, water on them. It's only on the continent or in Ghana that these things happen.
Is this professor from Kenya?
Right.
Mulumba.
I remember. Oh, yes. It had to be him.
Yes.
It had to be him.
Yes.
It had to be him.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to go to the audio. We'll talk about, what the Interior Minister has said. Audio itself. What makes you think? I mean, yes, ultimately they say it is to rig the elections for the NPP. Do you think the whole mantra of breaking the eight, we're hell-bent on breaking the eight, is what influenced this? Or is something that really been happening in their own circles on how do we break the eight by cheating,
I think the government have to sit back and evaluate the works it has done for the good people of this country and be able to consciously, in their own mind's eye, see if they can break the eight or not. It shouldn't be a do or die affair.
Right.
Otherwise, the good people of this country will surprise them. And let us not make a mistake. Ghanaians are wide awake. When you do so many excesses, Ghanaians are not talking. It doesn't mean that they are not watching. They are just waiting to get to the ballot box and show you that it's not as if the power they gave you, you are better than them, or and you given the opportunity, if you were there, we couldn't have exercised the same power. You see, 2024 election is so crucial, and we must not play with the security architecture of this country or anything that would seem to threaten the security of this country. Because if you look at the work this current IGP did in Komewu, I saluted him. I have my differences
and
with
Asim
him.
North.
Yes, I will come to that.
All right.
Asim North. I saluted him. I did several interviews and congratulated and commended him.
Yeah.
I had my own issues with him with the boys he has put around. They call themselves Dampari boys. I call them vigilantes because they don't operate within the law. They don't even respect their line commanders because they report straight to the IGP. And that by itself is creating some kind of serious concern within the administration. You see, in the police service, we have what we call the regimental orders. That is why if you are senior, your junior must always salute you. But these days, that is missing because of how IGPs come. They don't continue with the transformation that lay out as an institution. Everybody comes with their own things. And it also boils down to how they are appointed. And that's why I was saying, it's not a new thing that they undo each other to get appointed.
Right.
And if you want to look at the history of how IGPs has been appointed to now, that has been the culture within the service.
Okay.
If you speak to most of the senior police colleagues, they will tell you it's nothing new. It's just unfortunate this audio got leaked. And given the times we are living in, we are making a big deal about it. But it is
something they do say, except that
something has happened. Look, he himself, the IGP himself, probably might have done that to get where he is. And I'll tell you a story. A senior police officer got secondment to the United Nations. He was refused a release letter because they perceive him to be NDC. They rather recommended an officer they felt was sympathetic to the MPP. And this is the kind of police service we have. You are a journalist. I dare you, right? Go to the police headquarters and find out whether what I'm telling you, it exists or it's not there. Look at the promotions. Many people are there. They are promoted twice over their seniors.
Because they are seen to align with government. Right?
So now, to me, I always say this. We don't have anything called independence when it comes to our security institutions. They are all politically aligned. It's either you are here, you're in power, you get your promotions and blah, blah, and the others, and the vice versa. And that is so dangerous to the security of this country. Then come Asim North. You know, when the IGP gave directives that all MPs
not carry guns.
should not carry guns, I knew he would step on toes. And that really helped and de-escalated the tension in Asim North.
That was a good move. I mean, I had not spoken to a single security person who said it wasn't.
Yes.
Everyone applauded him, even though Ariti and others were.
And look,
MPs.
Dampare has his bad side, but don't underestimate the tactics of this man. Look at where he started from. As a constable and rose through the ranks. We have something we call experience. Like you sit here today, you've been in the media for a long time. Something you come and sit here and do, someone will look at papers and you can do it.
Right.
So we can take that from him. I think that as a people moving forward, we should treat this audio very seriously because the security implications are enormous.
Right.
And how we conduct investigations into this audio and what we do per the recommendation of the committee will determine whether we are actually ready for election
And
2024.
to be just a little fair to the NPP in respect of what the alleged COP Mensa and the NPP chair, former chair, said, could it also be just an overzealous and overambitious COP who feels because it's his time and nothing has happened, maybe I could actually help you win the elections, so overzealous and talking. We've seen people talk. When Kwesi Nyanteji was caught on camera, he said he had the president in his pockets.
Yeah.
It could be, yes, he has access, but sometimes you have to overblow it so they believe. Could that be like an overzealous?
I don't think it was an overzealous kind of thing. If you listen to the content of it, where he said, even me, if you don't give it to me, give it to somebody who is distant. It means that this is somebody who was serious about his intention.
Oof.
He's putting himself forward for the job. If you feel that, no, you won't give it to me, let's get somebody. And
Who is all with your party anyways.
And he made it
right.
that otherwise we can break the aid. And even made reference to Asinov. And those are very worrying statements to make. Look, let me come to this example and you see.
Asinov, yeah.
My mother, Mamitiwa,
COP.
very fine police officer. I think she's an epitome of excellence when it comes to women in the security agencies. There was one other in the army who rose up to the rank of the general. I learned she's passed now.
Right.
And I think we should support women because the security service has been made as it's a man's duty. Look, when she became the Director General of the CID, all those things that were in the media about these Takrade things and her subsequent removal, what do you think it was? They were fighting her because she had better credentials becoming an IGP over Dampare. That is a fact. When she was removed, when Dampare came, go and find out why Amitiwa is not working at the police service and is with Yoko. And that should tell you the politics that go on at there for the ultimate seat of the IGP. So it's not something new. So I think that...
Well, could it also be that this, because I was reading on the 13th of July, a report suggesting that there's actually a video evidence present. Could it also be that, because I'm listening to you saying about how it's a culture, a terrible, toxic culture that exists where people play politics within the police service to get to the top, including the IGP, George Ekufuda. So could it also be that it is because it exists and he is aware and he could have set these people up as he plants somebody there who can record so we get the evidence to say, okay, this is what they are planning. So, I mean, IGP could himself be implicated in this.
Well,
Could we?
As a security practitioner, many things happen. Look, if you are a person of interest, I could crone your house and listen to every conversation in that house. So the question, and the big question, this investigation will unravel is who leaked that video. How many people
recorded it?
How many people were in that room? And the third meeting happened in Buru Nabo's, if you know his office, and it's a place come and go. Anybody crap. He's very close to
Dr.
President.
Mahmoud.
Yes.
Baumia.
When they were young, he was staying with Baumia's father's house. He was taking Baumia to school. So he boasts to people Baumia is the son.
Right.
And you know how politics work in this country. If your father is the president or even your brother, you are sorted. And if you look at NDC, is there. If you look at MPP, is there. There even somebody they nicknamed the prime minister of this country. But, you know?
Yes.
So people also want to take advantage to get to that arena in the event that Baumia becomes the president, you know. He can also, you know. So I have no doubt, putting all the parameters together, you can't out anything, whether the office was backed or somebody intentionally recorded and leaked it, or it's a propaganda kind of thing. All these things are possible because of technology.
Right.
But my sister, how did you get to the bottom of it? An investigation.
Right.
And I think that Parliament should do one thing so that the good people of Ghana will believe that indeed that house is our house. Because if you look at how the representative votes on issues, I've looked at the Western system of democracy. Mostly, the reps go back to their people.
There's something, they give them a number, you call. If you don't know what MP is doing,
yes.
your representative is doing, you call.
And they speak the voice of the people. I think we must stop the whip system that we currently practice. Otherwise, our democracy cannot grow. Look, Parliament in the Fourth Republic is over 30 years now. Look at the chaos that happened in Parliament during the election of the Speaker, you recall. And anything that comes on the floor of Parliament, if it's for the government or the majority will say, whether it sits well with the people or not.
Right.
Look at the levy.
Yes,
against the wishes of the Ghanaian people. Their parliamentarians went and passed because that was what the government wanted. I think that is not helping our parliamentary system.
Okay, all right. You're live here. You're one-on-one, and I'll talk about the leaked audio that is plotting the removal of IGP to make way for the an IGP that is government friendly, an IGP that can help the NPP to do what has never happened in the history of this country, and that is for under the 1992 Constitution, and that is for them to break the 8. When we come back from the break, we'll look at the Interior Minister's response to that. He literally dismissed it, said, IGP is not going anywhere. He didn't say, as the Interior Minister, the office that he occupies, he didn't say, look, this is serious, we must look into it, fish those people, remove them, reduce their rank if we have to, them through the law. He didn't say that. We'll look at that, and we'll look at other commentary that have come in respect of the leak tape. And the IGP himself, will we hear him issue a statement?
This government is not going to tamper with 2024 election. Number one, our president does not want to stay one more hour beyond his tenure. No. Number two, we are making sure that we have free and fair election. You have been in this country and you've had several by-elections. The by-elections under this system are the most peaceful by-elections that we've had. I had to go to Chiriponi where people were shot in the head. And we said, went to Atiwa, Talensi, where they were throwing stones. But now you go to a by-election and everybody relaxed, people are allowed to go about voting peacefully. And I am saying that those who did not believe in the system now believe that they can count on the police in 2024. Haven't they said that? Yeah. They have said that, and rightly so. And so, as far as I'm concerned, we moved, and I'm also happy that at last they have said that the EC did a good job, because I can assure you that this country would not allow anybody to be killed or shot because of vote at all. One thing is certain, 2024 would not be a violent election by anybody, and no one will want to thwart the will of the people.
Then NDC brought you this far. Now, what he's bragging about is the fact that he will be IGP till 2030, because Don Mama has promised him if he should win may God forbid anything. If he should win, he will maintain him as I should. And he again. And
who was there to hear this?
Oh, it is true. Wait, a meeting was held, of which he was a party to that meeting, and where he was even
NDC meeting
headed by your man.
And
this thing is not coming from you. You can Google, you see.
And
you can go to Ghana Web. Yes, the number of
you go what?
Ghana, go to Ghana Web. Let your boys do it for you. You see it. Paul Adom Ochre. It is one of his recent episodes. This was the topic. This was the subject matter. This was what was discussed.
And that our MPP.
So he mentioned his name. Publicly, Paul Adom Ochre. What about this?
Possible vice presidential candidates. Includes football chair. Includes Dampare.
What would be his vice?
Yes, if he should win. But all these things Dampare is doing.
But are you saying that President Nanado doesn't hear this?
Who will tell you?
Me, I've heard it. I will say it, but I just don't want to say later. It will be found to be not true.
Mention Paul Adom Ochre. Call Paul Adom Ochre.
Who's Paul Adom Ochre?
Oh, he's very close to the president. Then he's a journalist. He's a journalist. He's an astute.
Do you have his number?
And all those who were involved, there's one Alaji. Who is that? They must establish his identity and prefer charges if it is established that they are the ones who actually sat down to plot such an evil agenda against the sovereign will of the people. The very survival of our democracy is dependent upon how transparent our national elections are. And so if there is an attempt to rig and to undermine the sovereign will of the people, well, that should be, a matter that should be treated with a certain degree of seriousness. You don't just sweep these things under the carpet. This audio must be thoroughly investigated, and I was expecting that the minister would have spoken, and given us the assurance that they are going, by now, Alex Mensah should have even been invited, interdicted. And then the investigations will commence in earnest.
Welcome back to One on One. My guest is EMMANUEL Kotin. He is a security expert, has lots of experts on security and also counter-terrorism. And, to the tail end of the conversation, we'll look at how terrorists or terrorist organizations are recruiting persons in vulnerable communities here in Ghana. We'll look at it. But before the break, we're talking about the reaction of the Interior Minister to it. Were you shocked that he came out and said, look, IGP is not going anywhere. Government has no intention of removing it. End of story.
I think it's a very unfortunate statement because Mr. Honorable Ambrose Derry is someone I've always respected because he's a very senior lawyer and he has mentored a lot of people. And so whether he was doing politics or he really meant what he was saying. So right after his statement, I spoke to a lot of media houses and I was happy he made a U-turn in Parliament supporting the call for an invasion.
Right.
Because initially he said he didn't see any criminality in the audio, which was very unfortunate.
Right.
What could be more criminal than plotting to subvert the goodwill of the people of this country? Well, it's his
party. Does that also mean then I am allowed to say that perhaps he also knew about it? So he's rubbishing it so people don't ask questions. Yeah, we were going to do that anyway. No, it's possible.
Well, where he sits, there's
intelligence.
Could be a possibility you could have seen that audio earlier.
Okay.
And social media has really helped the good people of this country.
Right.
The more you share it, the more it ends wrong hands and somebody may be disgruntled and just push it out. But I think that he has eaten the humble pie, and he should be magnanimous to the good people of this country. The position he occupies, yeah, it's solely by appointment. And if he was not elected to parliament, if they had elected his government to power, he wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we are given positions, we have to understand that it is transient, and it's just like the ceramic cup, you understand? It's about service to the people. So I would have even felt that on a hindsight, even if he was not or is aware of this audio, he should have been on the side of the people instead of wishing it away. Not mean anything. He's such an experienced lawyer, and he knows what amounts to a criminal offense. And this is a very highly treasonable offense for a whole interior minister to wish it away. But moving forward, I think that it will be in the interest of the government for an investigation into this audio to happen as soon as possible. Because the posture of government, when the audio leaked, pretty suggests they were complicit. So now that their defenses have not helped them, they must take the lead role and make sure an investigation is conducted. Don't let us deceive ourselves. Look, with the appointment of the IGP, the Interior Minister has no locum. He has not. Even his own appointment is subjected to someone appointing him.
Right.
So it doesn't lie in his mouth to say that, oh, I'm satisfied with the work of the IGP. So he's not going anywhere.
But the very reason you mentioned is why he would say that.
Yeah,
That
for political
his-
experience.
Yeah, for the fact that his own authority is given him by the mere fact that a president appointed him.
No, but don't forget, his role is supervisory. He's just a supervisor of these agencies.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
If you look at the act, it's pretty clear. To being a supervisor of something doesn't mean you have authority to take certain decisions. That's why.
But the commentary,
Corporate Ghana,
but the commentary to say, oh, it's nothing to say. Okay, government, don't worry.
I think it was the zeal of power. You know, when you have an office, sometimes you are
Right.
carried away. I think he doesn't have such powers, and the Constitution is very clear about that. The person who has such power is the presidency. The president can decide to appoint an IGP without consulting him, because he's not obliged to consult the Minister of Interior, whom he wants to appoint as an Inspector General of Police. So it's about time we stop arrogating certain power we don't have into our hands because of political expediency. Many people have come and gone and have occupied that office. So we need to be learning and be humble in our discourses,
Right.
and we should know that it is just service humanity and to the good people of this country.
Speaking of politics, so the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party, Richard Ahiagwa, tweeted on the 13th of July, and his tweet reads that the Minister of Interior, Ambrose Derry, he didn't add, but I'm just adding Ambrose Derry, but Ministry of Interior has assured Parliament that the IGP is not going anywhere. Now the speculators can rest. I mean, from a Director of Communication of the New Patriots saying that the Interior Minister has spoken, speculators rest.
So this is what I just spoke to. It means that they don't even understand what they are doing. They are clouded with their political ideas and ideologies, and they think that is it. Ahiagwa is a very fine gentleman whom I admire so much. But sometimes, because of political expediency, they come out with certain things just to make to appear in the eyes of the party that they are working. But when they look at their conscience, they'll know that it doesn't sit well. Ahiagba knows very well that the IGP have no locum when it comes to the appointment of the IGP. So why is it hiding under the statement the Minister of Interior made in Parliament? And it's not as if he appeared before Parliament to answer questions. He just stood up as a member of parliament to give a contribution. It was a contribution it made. What is wrong with government releasing its men? So government is now above the good citizen of this country who put them there to assure them about the steps it's taken over this audio. Come on, we should give the good people of this country some respect.
Okay. So my final maybe 2 questions before we even wrap up is this. So what happens if government does nothing? Like what's the implications? It's a question that everyone is asked. What happens if government says Ambrose Dere has spoken, that's it, nothing happens? What is that?
If government wish away this audio and don't take any action, we have to be prepared for the 2024 elections.
When you say prepare, what do you mean?
A lot of things will happen. I'm telling you. Look, you can't charge certain people others. So it will be a clear vindication that the other political will not trust our architecture. So they will also have parallel own security. And you can security for its own the cues it will bring. Institution. Bridget, you are not perfect. I'm not perfect. I have my own shortcut wrong. They have gotten it wrong. Let's eat the amber pie and do the right thing. It will benefit this country when they do the right thing by investigating this audio, making the law work, irrespective of whoever, than taking no action.
Speaking of making the law work, when the issue of Jachikwe comes up, and you hear voices that Domahini says, look, file a nolle prosequa and nothing happens. Aisha one gets one, even though her offense is graver than what Jachikwe may have, not denouncing, his allegiance or nationality, to Canada. And then the Attorney General tells you that don't tell us to stop, discontinue this, we're applying the law. And then in another breath, same government is silent on something grave.
Look, I was having...
So do you see us making progress from this? I mean, be honest. I mean, hope.
No.
So what would it take then?
I don't...
Hold our hands today and say, okay.
The lawyers, you say the law was meant for the people, not the people for the law. It simply means that we have to fine-tune our laws as circumstances change. Because look, I was speaking with a foreign journalist who was interviewing me about it, and Jasin issue came up. This is somebody you remove from parliament through the law courts. But the same law courts could not prevent him from contesting. And the people still repose their trust in him. If it was in a progressive and proper functioning democracy, the state would have filed a nolle prosequa. Because we are just wasting state resources doing this. The question we ask ourselves is that the prosecution of this gentleman, to what effect? So if you don't like a baby, and you bath the baby and you are pouring the water, will you pour the water with the baby? So now, it means that it's the people of Asim North. We are not respecting their wishes, because it's their wishes that man represents them. Asim North, the president campaign, the vice president campaign, people that matter campaign. But the people say, you know why? This is a gentleman aware. And you see, sometimes we have to be careful the examples we set. Today, it's question, the pronunciation of his name sometimes.
Kwesing.
Today it is him. Tomorrow it could be me or you. So the question we ask when we are doing things is that the Attorney General, if he was in Kwesing's shoes, would he have been happy? We have to move above that moral level, apart from everything. Otherwise, What I see is political.
Is
prosecution.
politicization the biggest threat to our security? Is that the biggest threat?
It has been the biggest threat since the inception of the 1992 Constitution.
Wow.
Because if you listen to Mr. Kwasson, formerly of National Security, he
Right.
wrote a very beautiful book. You see, instead of us putting our resources and structures for national security, we are always inclined to regime security. And regime security is what we have practiced over the period.
Right.
Otherwise, why would there be a change of government and all the security heads are?
Right.
Look at the FBI boss. He was appointed by Trump, but he's working with Biden. That is a progressive society. It's not everything we use anger, emotions, vindictiveness to achieve an end.
Would we need an external, short answer to that, like, would we need an external help in 2024? Do you see that?
Well, as far as elections are concerned, any external help will not be deemed appropriate. It will mean interference.
Right.
So we have to get our external structures up and going so that they can address some of the challenges we are talking about.
Emmanuel, thank you very much for coming on One. I couldn't get to ask him the question about terrorism targeting, terrorist organizations targeting, vulnerable communities. We will take we'll use another episode to talk more about terrorism, why they are targeting, very vulnerable communities in the country, what's the attraction, and ultimately, what is the goal? My name is Bridget Otu. Go on all our social media platforms and leave your comments there. I know a lot of you commented on Facebook. Leave it there. Use the hashtag #OneOnOne. Thank you very much for coming. Right. So see you next week. See you next week.
Then NDC brought you this far. Now, what he's bragging about is the fact that he will be IGP till 2030. Because the Mama has promised him if he should win, may God forbid anything. If he should win, he will maintain him as IGP. And he again.
Who was there to hear this?
Oh, it is true. Wait. A meeting was held, of which he was a party to that meeting. And where he was even
NDC meeting
headed by John Mama.
And
this thing is not coming from you. You can Google it. You see it.
And
you can go to Ghana Web. Yes, the number of
you go what?
Ghana. Go to Ghana Web. Let your boys do it for you. You see it. Paul Adum Ochre. It is one of his recent episodes. This was the topic. This was the subject matter. This was what was discussed.
And that our MPP.
So he mentioned his name publicly. Paul Adum Ochre. What about
possible vice presidential candidates? Includes football chair, includes Dampare.
What would be his vice?
Yes, if he should win. But all this thing Dampare is doing.
But are you saying that President Nanado doesn't hear this?
Who will tell you?
Me, I've heard it. I will say it, but I just don't want to say later. It will be found to be not true.
Mention Paul Adum Ochre. Call Paul Adum Ochre.
Good for that much.
Oh, he's very close to the president. Then he's a journalist. He's a journalist. He's an astute.
Do you have his number?